human organizational strategy. It is born out of love. Don't make anybody tell you that you're naive or something. I'm not a naive human being. There's absolutely nothing naive about me. I perceive, a great deal, and I've had to work my way through all these perceptions over many, many, many years, because I've had to hold a duality in my head. I have to be able to function in this world, and yet I have to be able to be in the other world where I can perceive things. So what is going to happen to this world? This world will be abandoned. It's not going to be destroyed or anything, it will just be abandoned. And look, it's not as creepy as it sounds, or abandon it and do what. No, because, I'm looking for the right analogy. Imagine when, people may have been building all sorts of things, but when they discovered electromagnetic waves, they started building antennas. They abandoned all the other type of thinking and all the other type of whatever. What I'm trying to say is that when human conviction changes, everything changes. Who knows, you may not need electromagnetic waves anymore because they're not important. They only respond to a very limited part of the universe. And if you can perceive much more than that, then you don't need electromagnetic waves. Yeah, you may still have them as a window, but they do not become your predominant window. And I know that this is hard to be. This is people think that light dominates everything. It's not true. Light is an electromagnetic wave. Actually, that is not a correct statement. The way we perceive light is as an electromagnetic wave. But the electromagnetic wave itself is limited. It is the creation of the corruption, of the parasite. Look, whatever you see in existence, the signature that it carries, that tells you where it's from, is that it is limited in one form or another. And that's why the expansiveness of the universe, the accelerating expansiveness of the universe, that's why it's so baffling. Because what physicists have found out is that the conservation of energy does not apply to the universe as a whole. Because the universe appears to be creating energy out of nothing. And it's doing it at an accelerated rate. Already tells you that something is wrong. There's something wrong with the thinking. How can everything, every behavior within this thing we call a universe exhibit some type of limitation? But when you look at it as an overall aggregate, the universe as a whole, the damn thing is doing the exact opposite. Even it is doing it in such a way that totally makes mockery of all the things we have learned. So you are confronted with two irreconcilable ideas. Only one is true. Well, depends anyway, because one is the negation of the other. So if one is true, the other is true. But that's not the point. The point is the expanding universe which we perceive is as a result of a contracting consciousness. A self-consciousness is being squeezed by this parasite. When consciousness is restored, then a human being's perception comes back. And what do you perceive in such a universe? You perceive a universe that doesn't change. You perceive a universe that is eternal. It's not shrinking. It's not expanding. But you perceive it differently. It's not the way that it is currently that it doesn't change. No. I once gave a podcast of this where what the universe really is in terms of how it emerged as a concept space. Because it's a projection, remember, and it is projected by, we are the one, not the physical form you're looking at, the archetypal form of humankind, which in your Judaism and Christianity you call Adam. It's just that the archetypal human being, the blueprint, if you must, the spiritual blueprint Anyway, doesn't matter. It's just a digression. So you see a universe that is unchanging and fixed. Then you see yourself as unchanging and fixed. And I'll give a whole new podcast what this means, what this implies for living. Because remember, every time we say these kind of things, the imagination begins to investigate it. But because you don't understand any other way to be, you cannot imagine it. Because your imagination is populated by your experiences. You have no experience of this, not even in your sci-fi or anything. There are no stories or narratives that begin to help you to imagine what this type of existence really is. And that's really, it's really essential. Most people think that imagination is limitless in a way. It's not. Your imagination is populated by your experiences. And when people begin to feel such a profound love and it becomes their organizational strategy, then conflict disappears from the world, because conflict, its very nature is the fact that people don't understand they don't understand each other. I've never met a human being who agreed that they were evil or they were bad. They're always coming from a perspective. They can make their case. And even if you don't see their case, have you walked in their shoes? Who knows if life made them the way they are? Who knows? What I'm trying to say is that conflict is not originating from individuals per se. It is coming from Namdik Sufa, which itself is a consequence of this inability to receive the love of God. What is the love of God? I said that one of the deepest perceptions of the love of God is a sense of an overwhelming beauty, a beauty that cannot be explained. And that there is nothing we have in our imagination that can help us understand this, because we have no experience of this. And that just tells you how far the parasite has pushed us away from God. What we see as space-time and the vastness of the universe is the distance between us and God. That we are projecting this incredible universe without knowing it, without being aware, because that perception of us has been shrouded over. But that the physical universe contains the very negation of that perception by virtue of the fact that all things originate from God, who is a unity and who is a balance. And that when we are able to see within the physical reality and the way it is projected, we are able to see the nature of this limitation. We are able to see how it traces back to us and then how we trace back to God. Then we understand the entire story. We know exactly what is going on. And once that becomes a conviction, the entire universe is transformed. Our world is transformed. But most importantly, we are transformed. Then we begin to see that the parasite, really what it was just what? The dark side of a moon, a tidally locked moon, and a part of our consciousness that we were never able to see because of the limitation, the parasite. So it is the part of, so God's love is something that we cannot feel because we have distanced ourselves. That feeling of distance, that Namdik Sufa, that shame, that is the nature of what we call sin. Upon which religion has built. And religion, what religion has, because religion is a creation of the parasite, is a creation of the corruption. And it has simulated this because it needs to, it has to. If it doesn't, you will reject the entire thing on a subconscious level and it can't hold. So it simulates a conduit for the spiritual nature of man, because man essentially is what he is. Whether it is covered by a parasite or not, it's not. It doesn't change what he is, because you cannot change the nature of God. And what is man? In my podcast on beauty and truth, I said man is, because God exists. If you try to understand it or overstand it, you can imagine God as an infinite expression. And at some point in that infinite expression of consciousness, a limitation begins to occur, like a coalescence or something begins to build up. What it does is it diminishes the full view of this infinite spectrum. It begins to restrict it, and that the restriction is what gives rise to what we